I grew up in Fairfax. So.
Oh, really?
Seriously.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out.
Why don't you go and take us on again?
This college is a little nervous. Let's be honest. Yeah, I'm just trying something new. For recruiting? Yeah.
Are you guys looking for...
I just think it's a lack of...
Good morning, everyone. One more time. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. How are you all doing today? Good? We have a very exciting panel up here for you today. Welcome again to Ask the Professionals Marketing. I'm Julianne. I'm with Career Services. I'm the internship coordinator. Today, again, we have a great panel, a mix of alum, a mix of other industry employers here that are here to talk to you. So please direct your attention to them today. Please mute all cell phones if you can at this time. I would like to introduce to you our Assistant Dean and Assistant Professor in Management, Patrick Soleimani.
Thank you. Thanks, Julianne. Good morning, everybody. How are you? Good. Well, thanks for joining us. I'm probably the least important person to be talking, so I'm not going to take up much of your time. It's better to have more time with everyone here. But I wanted to welcome you and our panel this morning. The panel includes quite a few Mason alum, which is wonderful to see them back here. I wanted to also congratulate you on taking a step like this, to be here and to be learning about industry. It's very important, and there's nobody better to learn that from than successful members of the community that are currently in industry. So kudos to you for being here this morning. Please be sure to ask as many questions as you can. You may not get this sort of an opportunity that often to be able to sit with people who may be future colleagues and be able to ask some insightful questions. So again, I welcome you. Let's take a moment to introduce your moderator, Dr. Jessica Hopner, who's an associate professor of marketing here. You're in great hands as this is her subject matter expertise. So, Dr. Hopner, thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. So we're going to start off today's panel. So welcome is the Ask Professionals in Marketing panel. And while we start off, I want you guys to brainstorm things that you might want to ask our panelists about their careers in marketing, what they do. And to start, I'd like to ask our panels to give a brief introduction of who they are and what they do.
My name is Heidi Oleska, and I have a branding and marketing firm. I started my own agency about 15 years ago and graduated from George Mason in 86 or 87, I believe, and grew up here in Fairfax, Virginia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Hugel. I also graduated from Mason, but just last May in 2017. I currently work for Discovery Communications, which is the parent company to 13 U.S. television networks, including Discovery Channel, TLC, Animal Planet, and Investigation Discovery. I work in corporate communications, where I help manage our external communications, media and press relations, and social media.
Hi, guys. I'm Evelyn Akers, General Manager at Ted Britt Ford. I graduated from American University about 16 years ago, and I've been at Ted Britt since.
Hi, everyone. This is Chris Gruge. I currently work at Where as the lead technical marketer. I graduated here, Mason, with a marketing degree May of 2014. And my responsibilities at Where is that I manage a team for the digital marketing side of kind of like a digital agency type company.
Hi, my name is Caroline Hacker, and I have a communications degree from Virginia Tech that I got a couple decades ago. I'm an acting director of communications for a predictive analytics company called 4C. They're based in Ann Arbor, and I've been in marketing consulting and communications for 20 plus years.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julianne Veloso. I graduated last spring with my degree in marketing from George Mason University, and I'm a digital strategist at Booz Allen Hamilton, a management consulting firm headquartered in McLean, Virginia.
So thank you for the bio. Good morning, everyone. I also work for Booz Allen Hamilton. I work within the media relations department, which used to be a part of marketing communications, but now I'm a part of external relations. So also graduated in May of 2016. I'm jealous that you guys got Chipotle, so happy to be here and looking forward to the discussion.
All right, thank you guys for those wonderful bios, and I think everybody is enjoying the Chipotle. So let's start off with, you guys have wonderfully impressive titles. For some of us, we may be wondering what in the world that means for your day-to-day. Could you kind of give us a description of a typical day in the life of your job? And let's start at the end to mix things up on the other side.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes, they should work. Everything should work. Yeah.
So as I mentioned earlier, I work within the media relations department. So what's different about that in comparison to traditional marketing, digital marketing, and some of the other branding folks here are part of the panel? Media relations mainly deals with reporters, right? So our job is really to manage reputation. We're not only protecting the firm from risk, but also we're managing reputation in hopes of winning new business, right? So it's a very, very interesting job because, as you know, headlines change by the minute, by the second, and news breaks quite rapidly. So day to day, it's quite interesting some days, depending on the day. But then I would say an average day for me is working with some of our marketing leads, developing content to promote certain initiatives at Booz Allen, but also working with different teams to measure success around engineering. So how do we promote engineering, data science, machine intelligence, and other items at Booz Allen? So I focus primarily on those sectors. So I don't really venture off into too much more, but it's very interesting to be at Booz Allen at this stage because, as you know, we're a 100-year-old company. However, I don't know if you might not have seen this, but in 2017, we actually had the most tech jobs open in the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area, right? So we're actually transforming our mainly consulting-based company into a more tech company. So it's very interesting to go along with that journey. We have many creative spaces that I'm sure I would love to show you. Also, subtle plug. I'm also overseeing the marketing communications summer internship program for Booz Allen. So, not to selfless plug, but definitely looking for candidates and also very looking forward to talking with you all. So here you go. You can take the mic.
So working in digital marketing, I don't really have a typical day. I wear a lot of hats. One day I could be creating a digital marketing campaign. The next day I could be making ads. I also work in employee engagement a little bit. I recommend to our senior leadership how they can build their personal brand online and help them get set up there. So yeah, no really typical day for me in digital marketing.
So I'm in a team. I feel like is this on?
Oh, we can pass.
Are you hearing me through here? No. It's fine. Okay, let's see. Yeah. So I work in a team of about 20 people in marketing, and my role is communications more specifically. So marketing is such a broad term, I almost dislike it because I think it doesn't really, it's way too broad to tell you, to define a job. But my role is more on building the narrative for the company. And this is a technology company that's going through a major transition, was acquired. It was an unsuccessful pairing. We've moved away from that acquisition, so we're building this new narrative about the company. So it's building a narrative, it's storytelling, it's pulling through that messages, and then helping others on the marketing team bring that message through in everything they do, from digital marketing to media relations to lead generation to sales enablement, all those different levers in marketing. So today, for example, I'm working on a piece of cornerstone research that we're putting out for one of the main verticals that we're targeting new customers in. So it's a utilities vertical. So we've fielded a huge survey of 40,000 customers about their energy consumptions and issues. And now I'm taking all that data from our analyst team and kind of coming up with what is the narrative for our company, what do we want to say, and then I'm going to be working with this design team on about a 40-page document that we'll be creating, or a piece of collateral material. There's a word you hear a lot, collateral. A piece of collateral that I hope to have ready in a few weeks, and then we will launch that collateral through digital marketing efforts, through media relations efforts through all the different other pieces that fall into marketing.
I think we lost power, so if we just talk a little louder.
It's not that big of a. I think we all lost power. You can always count on that happening too.
So I'm more of the technical guy. So I'm kind of on the border of digital marketing, kind of leaning more towards a developer. I mainly work with the digital marketers at WhereWhere, and so my team helps execute anything that they're going to need for any sort of digital campaign that they're running, whether it's for, my team specifically has a high focus on email marketing, landing page, small microsite development, but we're also helping out with the search and pay-per-click team, and as well as managing some of the day-to-day kind of website content entry. So for me and my team, I'm kind of overseeing any of those execution tasks. So whether it's from the marketing side or development side, the requests will come over to me. I'll kind of delegate it out based on the available resources, and kind of really going from there.
My day-to-day is very unpredictable. I'm obviously customer-facing, so customers can interrupt the day, of course. I do everything from working car deals to getting under a car when there's a customer that's brought a vehicle in repeatedly for a recall issue. Obviously, my main focus is handling the dealership's expenses, working with our agency, I handle a lot of the creative for the dealership. Obviously, we have an ad agency that we work with. I used to do it years ago, so I have a big influence. It's interesting to see how much our industry has moved from traditional over to digital. Traditional being TV, radio. Our budgets have massively swung over to digital. So I'm actually learning a lot more about that because we used to do so much with traditional. But as far as the day-to-day, it's absolutely unpredictable.
So my role, I would say, is kind of split 50-50 by what I do during the day. Half of my day, I'm on our social media accounts, managing our brand accounts, managing what our networks are putting out, creating content, looking at analytics, building reports, and evaluating if we're meeting the KPIs that we've set at a corporate level for our social accounts. And then the other half of the day, I do work in external communications, so working with media relations, working with media outlets, putting out press releases, monitoring industry news, brand news, and collecting kind of the general tone or pulse that the industry has in media and what people are saying about us as a company and our brands on a global level. So I think my day, again, like everyone has said, there's no set routine for what you do every day, and every day is very different, especially with working with media and working with the news. But I would say half my day is split creating content for social, doing digital analytics, and evaluating the digital side, and then the other half is looking at brand and industry news in more traditional media outlets.
So I'm on the other side of having a branding and marketing agency. I have lots of different clients that I'm developing a brand during the day. So I have a client that's a disaster recovery as a service, a national. So I help develop their brand, their messaging. So I'll be talking to them, doing a competitive analysis. And then I have my restaurant that I do social media marketing for that's having a wine dinner next week, and I'm doing a newsletter for them. And then it goes to my dental office, and there's a new thing about charcoal on your teeth, and we're trying to capture that and do it in social media. And then there's billing, and then there's chasing clients who aren't paying. And IT company that I'm doing all the SEO on their website and revamping their website because we're fine-tuning their narrative. So it can go from restaurants to disaster recovery to billing.
A lot of variability. So I think a lot of students might be wondering, well, with marketing being so broad, what drew you to your particular field in marketing, and how did you get your start? Right. So for our recent grads, maybe you can talk a little bit about how you ended up getting your job, and for our more experienced alums and panelists, talk about sort of your career path in your field. Heidi, do you want to?
How much time do we have?
A few moments, and then we're going to open it up after questions to other people.
So, like I said, I grew up here in Fairfax, went to George Mason, got my marketing degree, thought as soon as I left I was going to start my career in marketing. But I was waiting tables at the same time downtown at a high-end restaurant. And when I graduated, now don't do this, okay? I'm just saying this is what I did. Lessons learned. I was making too much money waiting tables, to be honest with you. I mean, back in 87, 88, I was probably making $60,000 waiting tables. And so I've got this marketing degree, and I'm like, no. It's internship and everything, which I should have done. So I tried different things to try to, get out of waiting tables. I tried real estate. I went to culinary school to be a pastry chef. I moved to San Francisco to be a pastry chef. I started working in a kitchen, and I burnt myself and done. So I'm like, okay, I'm in San Francisco. I've got my degree in marketing, so, what should I do? So finally I took the plunge. So now I'm 30. So I graduated when I was 21, 22. And went back to school. I got a job as an office manager at an agency in San Francisco. I had to kind of get out of my comfort zone here and learned all aspects of an agency and got my MBA in marketing as I was working at that agency. And our clients were like Visa, DHL, Wells Fargo. And that was like we just had computers then, so there was no social media. But I learned all about the print process. And then I moved back home, and I worked at a branding agency for a couple of years. And then I'm like, this is what I love, helping companies differentiate themselves. And then I worked in an ad agency, and that collapsed. And by default, I'm like, well, okay, I'll just start my own. So that's how, I started my own agency. And I love the branding part the most. But you got to do everything to, have an income.
So I did just graduate last May, so I did just go through the process of putting my resume out to everywhere and trying to find a first job, and I am an early career. But I would say I was very aggressive with interning while I was at Mason. I did 6 internships in my 4 years and really tried to switch up what industries I was looking at. Marketing is such a broad field, so I interned nonprofit, I interned in education, I interned in tech, and my last internship was with Discovery, where I got into media and entertainment and television, and I fell in love with it. And I think I learned so much through working and building connections here in the DC area, and really just getting my feet wet in so many different industries, doing so many different things, that it kind of helped narrow down this giant word of marketing and tell me what I liked about it and what sections and segments I enjoyed and what I didn't enjoy, because that was almost just as valuable. And yeah, interning at Discovery, I just fell in love with the entertainment industry and was fortunate enough to have my internship transform into a full-time position. So yeah, quick story because it's my first job. But
I grew up in Cleveland. I'm a Browns fan. Won one game in 2 years. I came out to D.C. because I love D.C. Went to school at American University, stayed in D.C. When I graduated, I got a BSBA with a double specialization, which is unusual because I did accounting and marketing. I got a lot of slack from all my marketing teachers because they told me that the two professions didn't go together and it didn't make sense that I would be doing both. I got a job right out of college at a small private accounting firm. I actually had the same issue. I was bartending in D.C. all through college, everywhere. And I was hired right out of school at an entry-level auditor position, and I was making a quarter of what I was making when I was bartending. I was paying $10 a day to park. I was bored out of my mind because this was an auditor position, and although my brain works very well, my personality did not work well. I was watching people work half as hard as I was, getting the same promotion. So I lasted about 6 months, and I left the accounting firm and went and coached gymnastics and started bartending. And I was 21. And, of course, my mother had a heart attack because she had sent me to American University, and now I'm coaching and bartending. And I went and I bought a car. And the general sales manager at the car dealership kept saying to me, you should be in the car business. You should be in the car business. And this is kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to do one of these panels, because my initial reaction to him was, are you kidding me? I have an accounting degree. The car business? Why would I ever be in the car business? I just went to school to get this accounting degree. And, he laughed at me and told me all the great reasons why there's tons of money to be made and there's a great career and so on and so forth. And I kind of brushed it off, and I went back to that dealership a few times to finish up my deal. He continued to push, and my last time there, he gave me the name of a woman who, and this was a dealership in Maryland, who worked at Ted Britt Ford in Fairfax. I was still 21 at the time, and I put the number in my purse, and I went on with my life. And a few weeks later, I thought, he was so persistent about this. He was the general sales manager at the time. I should just go check it out. So I went and I checked it out, and now I'm the general manager of the dealership. So it was definitely a good move, but I think there's a lot of unknown about the business and the career paths that there can be, and the fact that there's actually a lot of opportunity for college grads in our business and a plethora of different career paths.
So my career kind of had a kickstart here, actually, not just in schooling, but my first job in marketing was here at Mason Recreation. When I had started, it was me, the director, and one other person that he had just hired like a week or two before. So when I had started, it was really starting to build up the whole marketing department for the recreation department. So as I was working there, I ended up picking up a minor in graphics design. So as a marketer, I kind of started leaning more towards that. And when I graduated, I was convinced that I was going to be a graphics designer. This is what I really wanted to do. And I found myself really leaning more towards the marketing strategy rather than being a designer. So the marketing experience as well as the graphic design experience definitely helped me get the lead graphic designer position at Mason Recreation. So my job was to really be on top of creating any of the graphics or print material that we were putting out while I was here. So taking that, I left and started working at an internship for a digital marketing startup. And after that, I kind of bounced around a couple of different places until I ended up at Wear. And what attracted me to Wear was that it was another digital agency that was very similar to the startup I was at originally after graduating. But it was much more advanced. It definitely had a larger footprint than the startup that I was at previously. So I started out as a digital marketing manager, and I was very client-facing. So I was working with a handful of clients to kind of build their digital marketing strategy. So they kind of had an idea. I helped put a plan to that idea, and then I was part of the execution to it. Now that I'm a lead technical marketer, I have a very focused job to help the different departments build anything that they really need. So we work with quite a few automation tools that's required, and based on the client, it's going to be different. That's whatever they really come in for. We'll definitely suggest what the best tools are. So my team mainly focuses on email automation, but we definitely kind of spread out across the different digital marketing.
So it's funny. I also was making more money waitressing than I did at my first job. So I think waitressing is really sales, right? Upselling, and the higher the bill, the larger the tip usually. And sales and marketing as is called, as we have come to call it, because sales and marketing are so closely aligned. I think is a good takeaway. It's just how closely those two disciplines are aligned. So yes, I was also waitressing, but decided to downgrade my salary and get into my field. I had a job I didn't really like with the trade association here in the D.C. area, making a really good first-time salary for 1993 of, at the time, $30,000. I thought, I was proud of that salary at the time. Didn't like the job, so I left and took a paid internship at Fletcher & Hillard, which is a large PR firm in the city. In order to get that internship, paid internship of $800 a month. I had the ability to live with my parents at home, so I could afford to take a pay cut like that. But to get that job was really hard, and it was sort of pre-internet for job hunting. And Amazon was this quirky little site where you could put in an ISBN number and a book, and the title would come up. It was just amazing. So I literally, this wouldn't work today. So I was kind of lucky that I had the naivete and the gumption to do this. I walked up and down Connecticut Avenue in D.C., where a lot of the big PR firms are, with my resume, and just tried to hand it in to the receptionists of these 100-person, firms, because nobody was responding to my mailed-in version. And that was, most people just took it, and I'm sure they just put it into the circular file of the trash can. But I talked up this one receptionist, Myra, who, a lot of times receptionists and executive assistants are one of the most important people at any company. They have the ear of their executive. So she's definitely one of those, that she was kind of running the show, even though her title was receptionist. And we chatted for about an hour and a half. I just kind of stayed and talked to her, not because I was trying to, she was just an interesting person, and I was talking about my career issues and challenges. And I got a call from the head of that firm because of her recommendation. This girl came in with her resume that she's got, she's really sharp. And so that's how I got my break into that business. So after a coveted paid internship, I was then able to get my first paid full-time job. Sort of like the second woman on the panel who's not sitting there.
She's working.
Okay. So what's great about Mason, I went to Virginia Tech, where I didn't do any internships during my undergrad, and I wish that I would have. It wasn't as typical as it is now, but I also think this one of the benefits to going to a university like George Mason that's surrounded by a great economy and economic system. You've got no excuse not to do an internship, whatever kind you can afford to do or take time to do. I totally agree that's what pays off, like our other panelists was saying.
So I am a very analytical person, and in high school I loved accounting so much that I asked my accounting teacher for extra homework, which is super weird because I did not feel the same way when I was an undergrad. I thrived through my entry-level accounting course, and then I got to financial accounting, and I realized that I absolutely hated this, and I hope my accounting professor isn't here. It's not because of her, but, I knew that I was a very analytical person, but I also had a very creative side to me. And while I was taking financial accounting, I was writing for Her Campus Media, or you might know Her Campus George Mason here on campus. It is a small marketing firm in Boston, and I was interning remotely for them, and I was also writing for the Her Campus George Mason chapter, and I thought, why don't I try going down this route? I think one really important skill that you should pick up in college is learning how to write, especially if you want to go into the marketing field. It is all about communicating, and, whether it's you're communicating with a client or you're trying to convince your boss to spend X amount on a campaign, you need to learn how to communicate and how to write efficiently. And so I loved interning remotely for Her Campus Media, and, I had a few internships there. I went to school full-time here at Mason, and I was also nearly working full-time at an inbound marketing firm here in downtown Fairfax. So I really was hustling in college, and I came across someone on LinkedIn who worked at Booz Allen. He connected with me and was posting about job openings at Booz Allen, and I was like, well, I have some mutual connections with this person, but I don't really know him. But what's great about LinkedIn is you can connect with people and just make those connections online. And it's so easy. And so I kind of had like a cold conversation with this person who didn't really know me, but, seemed to see some potential in me, and convinced him to give me a few employee referrals at Booz Allen. And I got the digital marketing intern position for the Marketing and Communications Summer Hire Program. And I really loved my work there. I loved my coworkers and just everything about it. And at the end of the summer, there was a position for me. And so, that isn't always the case with our interns, but I'd like to say, I really lucked out and found my place there.
That's a very good feel-good story, and I think it's very interesting to hear everyone's story going down the line. I think for me, I'm originally from Richmond, Virginia, right? So originally I wanted to be a photographer. I realized that with the advancing technology of smartphones, where almost every picture taken on a phone looks close to one taken on a camera nowadays, so I knew that was growing. So I knew it's going to be hard for me to distinguish myself in photography, especially in the Richmond area. So then I kind of went back to the drawing board. I was like, what am I good at? What do I like to do? And clearly, as you could tell, I like to talk. I also like to write, and I like to read. And as we've established, these are very important things within marketing, but also within PR. So when I came here, I am the comm degree in the room, but I did pursue a PR degree. I never really looked back. I will say I was lucky enough to find something that I liked, and I stuck with it. But going into George Mason, everyone always told me, you need internships, you need experience. Like, there's a lot of people in this realm. There's not only a lot of people applying for jobs in this area, there's a lot of students at George Mason that you're competing with, right? So outside of the class, there's also people in other schools that are competing for these jobs. So I knew that coming up here was not only a leap of faith, but also it was going to be competitive. So from the get-go, I was able to land an internship in Richmond. I wrote for VCU News, which did that was my effort of getting more of like a portfolio, right? Something to actually have that I can carry on to a next internship, right? So the whole theme here is, how can I keep progressing? So when I came to Mason, I was like, okay, I have 2 years. What do I need? In my first 2 years, what do I need to do? Okay, I need an internship, and it would be kind of cool to study abroad. So I went to London, and I was able, after that 2 years, then I took a look back in the mirror. I said, what do I do next? I have a resume. I'm building out my resume. I'm starting to really make progress. But what do I need to do to distinguish myself among the other candidates that are applying for these jobs that I want, that everyone wants, right? And so I was able to land another internship at 2 different PR firms, really start focusing on different client services, right? So I worked on different types of clients and I told myself I wasn't going to say this, but I had a porta potty client at some point, which was a unique challenge, but also very interesting, right? Because I think I can resonate across the line here, but branding, PR, digital, these skills that you acquire, they can be applied to different clients, to different narratives. You can come up with different types of narratives based on what your focus is. So these skills apply across the board. So by the time that I reached my senior year, the main goal, right, at the end of the day is to graduate with a job. So I tried my best throughout my 4 years to really network as much as possible, and I will underline that, and I would double underline that, the fact that networking is key. So, going back to the assistant dean, I think, to what he was saying at the beginning, where networking is important. So coming out here and talking with us is a great first step, but then also following up, right? So whether it's dropping your resume off of the door, or even linking, or maybe sending a message to LinkedIn, maybe saying like an elevator pitch via LinkedIn, right? So the game has definitely changed over the years, but I will say to really distinguish yourself in this type of realm, if you want to be successful, I definitely think that internships are a must. And obviously the next question I'm sure I'm going to get from the crowd is, how do I get an internship without experience, right? And so what better way to get out there than to join student organizations? I know there's a few relating to marketing. So I know there's AMA. I was a part of PR SSA. Now, these things, they are all volunteer-based. They are not paid, right? But they have events, they have speakers that come in and really talk to you. Really, your exposure to thought leadership is compounded when you really get involved on campus. And I see there's also sororities and fraternities in this room. So that's another great way to get active, right, using your alumni network. So all these things that you can do throughout college to really distinguish yourself. And then I think at the end of the day, when I approached my senior year, I was able to land an internship at Booz Allen through the connections I made through PRSSA as well as my other internships. I was able to work throughout the year, work throughout my senior year. Then so when I graduated in May, I was lucky enough to be able to continue on at Booz Allen. So a lot of things that I was working on as an intern, I now manage. So I actually started off as an intern in 2016, worked for about a year and a half, and then now I'm here. So definitely look forward to meeting a lot of you, but I think that's my story in the most synopsed way.
And I was just going to say that, yes, since you can't, saddle up to a receptionist with that paper resume the way I did, definitely the equivalent, and I encourage all of you to reach out to all of us on LinkedIn and start building your network, and just put, hey, I met you at the panel, and start looking at our connections for if any of us in particular resonate with what you're interested in, and just start building out your ecosystem. I mean, LinkedIn has changed the game. For looking for a job, for networking, and I also agree that sort of, being part of these organizations, Washington, Women in Communications is one that I've been involved with, or, different organizations that you can find where you can attend, where you can ask, maybe help out with events, and then as a volunteer and sort of build your internship resume that way. If you don't have time for a full internship, there are some of these groups where you could really put in some hours, and then in return get some networking opportunities. So networking for sure, online, but not just online. Definitely.
And let's transition that to you guys. Is there any questions from the audience that you want to? Yeah.
I could jump in. I asked the team that I work with this morning, how many of them had a degree in marketing communications, so that I could tell you. And probably about half of us, I had a communications studies degree, had a related degree. And the other half had, anthropology, Spanish, political science, just most of them, some of them went on to get an MBA, but any very varied background. I think you just need to know how to think analytically, how to write, how to be persuasive, and most undergraduate degrees give you that opportunity, whatever the major is or not. So I don't necessarily disagree that, you don't have to have a marketing degree to be in marketing. In fact, I think a lot of successful marketers come from other backgrounds. I think what you do have to have, and I don't know what the curriculum is like here, and this didn't exist in my day, but in the last 20 years, when I went to school, it didn't exist. In the last 20 years, marketing, branding and story building, narrative building is still really core to communications and marketing, but marketing is data-driven. It is about analytics, it's about marketing operations, it's about nurturing leads through the sales cycle, it's about a lot of things that I frankly are not my passion. But marketing today is about data. Acting on that data. So you have got to take classes and get exposed to that side of marketing because today that's what marketing I think really means. Branding, advertising, all those things are also part of marketing, but the majority of jobs and the opportunities and the career paths, a lot of them are going to be about basically making sales and nurturing sales leads and using the data, having the data tell you what the next step is. So I hope you guys have classes like that. And if you don't, you got to find a HubSpot. I'm sure, I don't know, where HubSpot fits into your wheelhouse, or you know, if you have. But if you don't know what HubSpot is, check them out online. It's an inbound marketing company that has amazing online sort of certifications that you can take for free. You watch each half-an-hour video. They ask you some questions. Being HubSpot certified would be great. You know, it's definitely something you can accomplish while you're here. Within a few months, probably, if you're diligent. It'll give you a lot of the wording, a lot of the phrasing, a lot of ideas about what really goes into marketing, and you can put it on your internship resume too, that you're HubSpot certified, which you know does matter. So check that out if you're not familiar with HubSpot.
So I have a different opinion. So that's a great question. I think when it comes down to applying for a job, so my first, real job out of the restaurant industry was at an agency, and I applied to be an office manager, and I was up against 3 or 4 other people. I think the fact that I had my marketing degree is how I won out, because it's a marketing firm, right? So I think it's really important if your career, is marketing. And then I understand marketing is a lot about data, but I've built mine on strategy. So the first jobs I interviewed, when I was interviewing for that one, I interviewed with PeopleSoft, and they said, well, what strategy have you done? Have you developed campaigns, and what was your strategy? So I think that's a really important skill as well. Of course, the data analytics is important.
Yeah, and ERP, and they PeopleSoft created,
yep.
The space.
Yeah, and I didn't get the job. I mean, I had my marketing degree, and I had 15 interviews there.
Yeah.
But I couldn't produce enough to tell them that I was quick on my feet in strategy, which was a good learning lesson for the next student. Okay, I got to really understand the strategy part, which I learned a lot when I got my MBA as well. But a lot of that is also gut and intuition.
But I guess that's just good. I don't think we disagree. I think just marketing is it is very broad. What falls under marketing is, everything from branding to positioning to messaging to some of the more data-driven portions. So there are great jobs within each of those disciplines. You don't need to necessarily narrow your focus right away, but you end up being a specialist either by vertical or by discipline. So, I'm in technology, and I've stayed in technology for the most part.
I would definitely agree with the both of them, just because of how broad marketing is. I think, for me, I've always gone into it. Marketing is basically, or for me, understanding the how and why people interact with the brand. And so I could definitely see the strategy being able to kind of see where those people are, or how they're interacting with the brand and exactly what draws them to it, but then also looking at the data and analytics to try to get ahead of the curve and be able to strategize a plan based on how everybody's interacting with you in the brand. So I would definitely agree with the both of them just because of how broad marketing really can be. But going back to your question, although, you can hire like an accountant for a marketing position or communications, but I think marketing really teaches you that how and the why, whereas those other degrees don't really touch on that.
And bouncing off that, I think there's a theme going across the table here. So for most of us, I'll speak on behalf of myself, but for me, I feel like there's always a chase for us young professionals to be more integrated. What I mean by integrated is not just be a PR, a true media relations, strategist, right? It's now I work with different leads across the team. So I work with marketing on different SEO campaigns. Now I'm starting to understand how SEO works. I've coded different emails based on kind of what we want to send out. So at big companies or even in smaller companies, when you have different clients, there's unique opportunity to be more integrated, right? So I think the question when it comes to what does a marketing degree get you in 2018, I think that answer can it'd be interesting to hear from a hiring perspective, right? From a manager perspective, people that actually lead teams on this table, how many people they hire with a marketing degree. I think that's a part of the question, but also a second part of the question is, what are people doing now to be more integrated as a person, as a student, as a professional, to then distinguish themselves and actually really positively impact whatever company you're working for more, right? So how can you be more of a jack of all trades, right? I guess that's the chase, right? I think for most of us is, obviously we're very specialized in our own specific jobs, but I think there is a certain part of us that wants to be more integrated. not only with our company, but specifically more integrated with partnerships or even across industries trends. So that's what my quick take.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I can start out since I'm mainly in the whole automation thing. So I would disagree with that, just in the sense that when it comes to like the broad term of marketing, I guess, depending on the company, it's really based on what's the ultimate goal of your marketing, whether that's going to be to drive new sales, to drive repeat sales, to kind of drive brand awareness. And so automation definitely helps improve that. So any sort of opportunity that you can take out that manual process, one, you're saving your company like kind of man hours, because you don't have to have individual people pushing the button. You can have automation kind of do it for you. And so, I mean, back to the whole data analytics, if you're reviewing your analytics correctly, you can create automation campaigns that will kind of continually and like, put your brand out there and really try to accomplish whatever goal you're trying to achieve.
I'm sorry. So automation is also customer service. So, once you have them as a client, you're going to keep them as a client if your customer service is at the level it should be. And if you have optimized automation, then it's good for that. As far as marketing automation, if you have a brand that resonates with the client, with the prospect, and you have something that you've really differentiated, and you get that automated ad 5 times in 1 week on Facebook, then they work really well together. If you have a brand that has no differentiator and isn't appealing, then yeah. But as long as your brand is really resonating, then with automation, like in Facebook and Instagram, you can reach, if you are like selling real estate, you can reach families in the area that just had a baby and have been looking at real estate, Realtor Magazine. And you've got this amazing brand as a real estate company, and 3 or 4 times you hit them with this beautiful house that has enough bedroom. I mean, the analytics part of it, everything, it's amazing. It helps you be more targeted and better resonate with your target audience. I think I just showed how it did. Yeah. Because it's hitting people when they just had a baby, and it knows that they're about to have a baby and they're going to Lamaze classes, and we have a house for sale that has the 4 bedrooms that you need.
Yeah, so I think the whole emotional aspect definitely comes from the strategy that you put into it. So the automation doesn't have the emotion, but your communication does.
Yeah.
And so if you're able to implement that into your automation, so say for example, an expected mother, they sign up for a company and they put their expected due date. If you have some sort of automation that will send them some sort of brand awareness right before their due date, one, it'll say, oh, hey, that was really thoughtful for them to create a campaign based on my delivery date. But it could also be like a birthday campaign. If I know that your birthday is this month, I can have a campaign that goes out a day or 2 before your birthday. Again, it's one of those things, while it was very thoughtful of them to create a strategy based around my individual kind of life.
I mean, but just, you're asking some really interesting questions, just the social implication of automation and all of that. And I mean, the reality is that human-to-human interaction and engagement, is never going to go away. But I just think there's some things that can definitely be automated. Some levels of nurturing, a sales lead, or some things in the marketing process can be automated. But I don't think it's ever going to be without human oversight.
And adding to that, automation is only as smart as the person behind the marketing automation. And like when you're working in automation, like you also need to clearly understand like the personas, like your audience and customer journey. And if you don't understand that and you're not analyzing your data correctly, then yes, like I think it can lead to some negative impact. Like maybe someone's creeped out that like what's in their cart, but it's really all up to the person. I don't want to say like how well they're investing in campaign, but maybe like how well they know their audiences and are interacting with them.
Let's see, in the front, do you have a motion?
Value.
Yeah, I think so. This is something that my team works on a lot, and we attend, conferences dedicated to learning about, how to best create content that works with the algorithm, and especially the latest Facebook update. They've come on record and said they're against brand in this new update, and it's all about the personal interactions, and they're going to boost content that's more about you sharing baby photos than you talking about your brand's update or new press release or whatever. And I think what's really important is to make sure you, A, understand your digital community. So looking at your demographics, looking at who's looking at your content and how that content is most successful. But B, with social nowadays, it's really a pay-to-play game. So investing in posting quality content that isn't just posting to post or sharing to put more stuff in the world, but posting things that you can put money behind and sponsor that are going to perform well once they're put in the eyes of the people that love it. So if I know I'm posting something, for Discovery Channel about Gold Rush, I know that show targets well with men from 35 to 55. So when I post an update saying, okay, we're doing a 1-hour live special on February 14th, and I sponsor that with not even a lot, you can put, $30, $40, $50 behind these posts, and target it directly towards that demographic, you're going to see, regardless of the algorithm, positive response because you know what your digital community is, and you're satisfying that hunger for the content that they want. It's just about making sure their eyes get to your content, even when maybe those algorithms are working against it. Another thing that I think can be really helpful is working with any kind of, in any way, partnerships or other brands that you can connect with on social and hopping onto trends. So looking at how your brand can have a voice on Twitter when things are trending. Do you have something that your brand does that can hop into that? That'll find you a lot of really positive engagement too. But I think at the end of the day, it comes down to understanding your digital community and really understanding how to do the whole pay-to-play game right now. But when you combine those, I think you have a really powerful voice online.
So I actually do have a very interesting take on the social media algorithms, but also social media as a news organization, right? So as you know, I would say they're not going to dig into the weeds too much, but I will say Facebook, with how they're changing their algorithms and the platforms, Facebook and Twitter entirely, I would say Facebook is now operating more like a news organization in the fact that people post their content and share. And obviously these algorithms are impact the way that we share. However, it's interesting to see how, from a reporter perspective, how reporters as well as news organizations are interacting on these social media and how that's changing. So for me, it's less about how to specifically target our ads through updates, but for me, it's more monitoring, okay, what type of policies are these social media entities enacting that may impact the way that we speak on, or the way that we communicate on the process, or how is this changing the media narrative on social media? That's kind of the way I look at it in comparison to a social media website.
A friend, question?
Or what?
I actually had a journalism minor. I majored in marketing and minored in journalism. And just as like a new grad that was just interviewing, I think it was a great addition to my portfolio. And I think a lot of when I was going through interviews, when they asked me about my writing skills, to be able to say, you know, I have this minor that kind of confirms that I know how to write and I've been trained how to write professionally by the university was a really big asset. Whether it's a difference in which one is more valuable, I don't think one has more value than the other. They both confirm that you have tailored writing skills and show your employer that you have been trained on how to write very, very well. What I would say is find the one that you love the classes for. For me, I took the Intro to Journalism class and I fell in love with it, and that's why I went that route. But I think it's absolutely a strong minor to just confirm in a hiring manager's head that you're not just sitting here saying, trust me, I know how to write, I'm a great writer. You can say, I studied how to write. And that's my opinion.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is start writing.
Yeah.
Like, have a blog.
Contribute to other blogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have a portfolio.
Yep.
I think we have time for one more question. So, sir in the blue.
What types of analytics? So, I mean, as far as the kind of analytics as a marketing organization, what our team looks at is we're looking at basically conversion rates, marketing qualified leads that come in through campaigns, open rates on emails. So I mean, this is what I mean by data analytics. So it's not so much a branded, Salesforce, the tools are basically Salesforce, HubSpot. They provide these analytics tools that marketers look at. It is all about basically figuring out how to take general leads to marketing qualified leads to sales and active leads to close to cash. Whatever great creative branding idea I come up with, at the end of the day, my VP of marketing says we have to have 6,000 MQLs by the end of the year. Is this going to help us get there? And how can you prove that this helps get us there? So I used to be able to just think, I have a reputation for being fairly creative, like, wow, that's a great idea. Now I have to prove that idea. I have to kind of back it up with, and yes, it resulted in X% growth. So analytics just meaning you're able to crunch the numbers and say, I spent $50,000, here, and these are the results I got. It drove $1.2 million worth of business. Unfortunately, creative for creative sake, it works maybe for a Super Bowl ad, but at the end of the day, if they don't sell more beer, they're not going to do that ad again.
And from a business to consumer, like I would say for Ted Britt, it would be more Google Analytics and Facebook and engagement.
That's true.
Well, that's what I was referring to earlier, where the switch from traditional to digital has been so huge because it's just impossible. I mean, based on the panel, I'm more the client.
Right.
Although, I have a little bit in both, but from the client's point of view, it's really difficult to pay your agency this huge agency fee if they can't provide you with any sort of data and your numbers are down. But they, for whatever reason, think that their campaign is the most effective campaign they've run. Now, your numbers could be down as a client due to a lot of different things. This really could be the best campaign, but without any sort of data to back that, it's difficult.
So a part of my job that I'm having to the analytics side of my job is internally Booz Allen creates different types of analytics audits. So what I mean by that is every month I work with a PR firm that supports basically pulling different types of metrics. So metrics meaning how many articles did we produce this month, or how many eyes saw those articles, what are the shares like, what does that mean, right? So I think there's a part of the analytics, we can talk about all the different types of analytics that you could pull up and measure. So shares, engagement, clicks, you can go complete down the line. I think as an industry, when we're talking about analytics, I think we're moving away from just the numbers. You can't just say, oh, I produced this article that had 5 million people read it thumbs up, right? But for now, I think as an industry standard, we're starting to really compare them. We're starting to kind of look at, okay, well, we did this, but what does that really mean across, what are other people doing? What are the metrics looking like for our competitors, right? So it's not only measuring our success internally, but also comparing ourselves to others, and then how can we be better, right? So it's not just showing progress, but it's also looking to be better, and using those numbers to then show that you're progressing, but also showing opportunity to have people further. So I think for us, and I think I could probably look down the line, and I think it's probably consistent across the line, is that we're looking at metrics and less about, it's I think measuring success, but also able to really look with a fine-tooth comb how we progress.
You want to be able to benchmark against your own campaigns within your company and against your competitors. So you can't do that without consistent data.
I mean, I can assure you, though, that the folks at NBC Network and Comcast Cable and iHeartRadio and WMZQ and WJFK can tell you all the reasons why that traditional media is still incredibly important with no data to back it. Because, I mean, you can't link. If you saw my TV commercial, I mean, you know that in the auto industry, we're still on TV. We're still on the radio. We still believe that it's a powerful form of connecting with the consumer. But you've got to mix it with your digital side. And it's really difficult, actually, for me, especially being the client, trying to figure out, the right thing to do, whether you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on traditional media with no way of tracking it. But
by nature of traditional media, you can only say how many people have supposedly saw the ad, and then you can't follow them. What was your second part?
If you want it.
Well, not the second thing, where they teach you everything on the job, and everybody in marketing is a people person, by definition. I think reality is, if internships are not paying the same, they don't get health insurance and they're not paying full-time wages, like the trade-off is we're going to help you learn, and you're going to do some, you've got some quality skills, and we're going to pay you not very much to use them. So it's a trade-off. That's why it's not a, it wouldn't. It's not a full-time job. So I think there's that trade-off there that you can get in an internship that, no one wants you to learn on the job. They always want someone with 2 years experience, most entry-level jobs that I see are, wanting someone with 1 to 2 years, full-time experience. It's really hard to get past that hump. But once you do, and the best way to do it, everyone here has basically hustled through, internships and and side hustle being bartending, waiting tables, whatever it takes to pay the actual bill. That's the answer there. Got to break through that first 1 to 2 years experience barrier.
My perspective is much different than everyone else, I'm sure, on the panel, because I'm sure everybody knows that in my industry, you don't have to have a college degree to work in our industry. But that's, again, one of the reasons why I'm here, because I think it's really interesting of all the hiring that I've done in anywhere from sales to marketing to finance and even on the service side, advisor-wise. It's interesting that my best recruits have come from either college grads, I think mainly because of the discipline level, because obviously when you've completed your degree, you've hustled, you've worked your butt off, you've done all the things that you need to do in our industry, and you've been disciplined. And generally speaking, some of your salespeople that you get that are salespeople don't exactly have those qualities. And nowadays, the business is so different than what it used to be. You really need to follow a process, work a process, and you get the results with a sale, whether it be, again, on the sales or on the car sales or service side. And then the other industry we do really well with is the service industry, like bartenders. Bartenders end up being great salespeople. But I think people get nervous of our industry because they think I need to be a salesperson. I mean, other than the fact that I was in the service industry, I wasn't a salesperson. I have an accounting degree, for God's sakes. But if you go into our industry, there's there's a great career path to be made if you can stand out. I mean, I can assure you that I wouldn't have been the general sales manager before I was 30 if I didn't have a college degree. And it wasn't because my accounting degree, it was because the discipline, the hustle, everything that I learned in college that paid off in, actually all 3 general managers at our stores all have degrees, which is unusual in our business. But it's not necessary. But I'll tell you, when I hire somebody that's fresh out of college, I'm excited, really excited.
If it helps, I mean, I'm a tiny little agency, but it's passion and the willing to learn. And, I mean, there was a gentleman that literally cold called me, and he sounded great. And he said, I'll come whatever time you need. I'll come meet with you. And he offered his services to me for free for like 6 months to 9 months to prove it to me. And he's still working for me 3 years later. So
Not for free.
No.
On that note, I think we're about full of time, but we have an hour for you guys to network. So if there wasn't any questions that you were able to ask now, please come and talk to our wonderful panel. And I just want to say thank you all very much for being here and sharing your journeys, your insights, what's going on in day-to-day. So thank you so much. And stay, network, chat, and have snacks.
Where's your bartend?
Mainly in the clubs, like Platinum, Diva, Teach You. It's like in 99,
Okay, I was
2001.
before that.